Okay, so you want to own a golf course. A few hundred acres of perfect green, sunlight on the fairways, members in soft polos handing you money for the privilege of walking your land, a clubhouse with a bar that never closes, and your name on the sign out front. You picture the fantasy of every executive who ever missed a putt on a Saturday morning. Buy the land, cut the grass, roll out the carts, and watch the green fees pile up. That's the picture in your head, and it is a beautiful picture. Walk any nice course on a warm Saturday, and it looks like the easiest money in the world. Every tee time is booked. The bar is full. The pro shop is ringing. You watch that scene and think, this place must be printing money. More golfers, more rounds, more revenue. Simple. Here's the problem. You are standing there on the one afternoon of the year that lies to you the hardest. The truth is that a golf course is not really a golf business. It is a land and water business that happens to have flags stuck in it, and the moment you understand that sentence, every strange thing about how a course makes money and how it quietly bleeds to death starts to make sense. Let's start with what you're actually buying, because there isn't one kind of golf course. There are several, and each one is really a different business wearing the same polo shirt. At the bottom, you have the municipal course, owned by a city, priced at $30 to $60 a round, built to serve the public, and usually run to break even at best, not to get rich. Above that sits the daily fee public course, privately owned but open to anyone with a credit card, living or dying entirely on how many strangers it can push through the gate each day. Then the private member-owned club, where the golfers themselves collectively own the place, pay an initiation fee to get in, and pay annual dues whether they play or not. Above that, the corporate or investor-owned private club, the same model but run for profit by an owner who is not a member and does not care about your handicap. Then the resort course attached to a hotel, where golf is an amenity that sells $500 hotel nights. And finally, the strangest category of all, the real estate development course, a course built not to make money from golf at all, but to make the houses around it worth more. Each of these is a completely different bet on the same underlying question. Do you make your money from a huge number of strangers paying once, or a small number of members paying forever, or from something that isn't golf at all? That single decision shapes every other number in the business. Now here's where the naive mental model starts to fall apart. You think the expensive part is the land. It's a big part, but it isn't the trap. The trap is that turning raw land into a playable course means physically rebuilding the surface of the earth. You don't just mow a field. You move hundreds of thousands of cubic yards of dirt to shape fairways and greens. You install drainage under the entire property so a rainstorm doesn't turn your course into a swamp. And you build 18 greens to exacting specification, each one a layered sandwich of gravel, sand, and special root zone mix that can cost tens of thousands of dollars per green before a single blade of grass goes in. Building a new 18-hole course from raw land runs somewhere between $5 and $15 million for a modest daily fee course, and a high-end signature designer course, the kind with a famous name attached to the design, can run $20 to $50 million or more. But the part almost nobody budgets for correctly is water. A golf course is, physically, an irrigation machine with grass on top. You need a full computerized irrigation system with thousands of sprinkler heads, a pump station, and miles of underground pipe, and that system alone runs $1 to $3 million to install. And then you need something to pump. This is the number that ends careers. A typical 18-hole course drinks somewhere between 100,000 and 1 million gallons of water a day in the growing season, depending on climate. Run that out over a year, and a single course can consume anywhere from 40 million to over 150 million gallons annually. In a wet, temperate region where you can pull from a pond and the rain does half the work, that water might cost you very little. In the desert Southwest, where the course is green precisely because you are pouring a river onto sand, that same water can cost $300,000 to over $1 million a year, every year, forever. That's not a utility bill. That's a second mortgage that arrives every month whether anyone plays or not. Add up the land, the earthworks, the greens, the irrigation, the cart paths, the clubhouse, the maintenance building, the fleet of mowers, and the cash reserve to survive the slow early seasons, and even a mid-tier public course can require $10 to $30 million just to open the first tee. So far, so good. Now let's talk about what actually happens once you own it, because this is where the fantasy quietly dies. Here is the structural problem at the heart of the entire business, and it is the one thing that separates the people who understand golf courses from the people who get destroyed by them. Your costs are almost entirely fixed, and your revenue is almost entirely at the mercy of the weather and the calendar. The grass has to be watered, mowed, fertilized, and maintained 7 days a week, 365 days a year, no matter what. A crew shows up at 5 in the morning to cut greens, whether 10 people play that day or 400. The superintendent, the most important and most underrated employee on any course, earns a real salary every month regardless of the season. The annual maintenance budget alone for a decent 18-hole course runs $500,000 to over $1 million, and at a high-end private club it can run $1 to $2 million just to keep the grass the color the members expect. Now put that fixed cost against the revenue. Golf is seasonal in most of the country. In the northern half of the United States, a course might have only 180 to 220 playable days a year. The other half of the year, the course is closed or frozen, earning nothing, while the mortgage, the insurance, and the loan on the irrigation system keep right on coming. And even inside the season, a single weekend of rain wipes out the 2 most profitable days of the week, and that money never comes back. You can't sell yesterday's tee time tomorrow. It's gone. Now here's the part that should sound familiar if you've ever thought about a gym, because a private club runs on almost exactly the same quiet secret. Picture 2 members. The first one plays 4 times a week, every week, all season. The second one signed up in a burst of enthusiasm, played 6 times in his first summer, and now shows up twice a year while still paying his dues every single month. Which member is more valuable to the club? It's the second one. Read that again. The member who plays constantly wears down the greens, eats up tee times other members wanted, needs a cart, uses the locker room and orders very little because he's there to golf, not to spend. The member who never comes costs the club almost nothing and pays full dues forever. A private club with a healthy roster of dues-paying members who rarely play is, quietly, running the most profitable version of this business that exists. The club isn't really selling golf. It's selling the identity of being a member, the address, the little logo on the shirt, and it's betting that most members will pay for that identity far more often than they'll ever actually use the course. The physical course only has to handle the fraction of members who show up on a given day, not the total number who pay. So, how does a course actually make money, layer by layer? The first and most obvious layer is green fees and dues, the money for access itself. And for most courses, this is the layer that barely covers the maintenance budget and nothing else. The second layer is the golf cart, and this one is quietly enormous, because a cart fee is close to pure profit. The course leases a fleet of carts for a fixed cost, then rents each one out dozens of times a week at $20 to $40 a ride, and on a busy course the cart fleet can generate more margin than the green fees themselves. The third layer is the pro shop and lessons, the clubs, the gloves, the balls, the teaching professionals' time. But here's the counterintuitive part, the thing that mirrors the car dealership almost perfectly. The golf is the bait. The real profit engine for a huge number of courses isn't on the course at all. It's food and beverage and events. The clubhouse restaurant, the bar, the beverage cart that finds you on the 9th hole right when you're thirsty, and above all the weddings, the corporate outings, the charity tournaments, and the banquets. A single wedding in the clubhouse can generate more profit in one Saturday night than a full day of golfers generates on the course outside. A well-run course doesn't see itself as a place to play golf. It sees itself as a hospitality and events venue that happens to own a beautiful green backdrop. And the backdrop is the reason people pay a premium to hold their event there. That green backdrop, though, is exactly where the money leaks back out. Now let's talk about what goes wrong, because plenty does. The obvious enemy is weather. A drought doesn't just make the course look bad, it directly attacks your single largest variable cost by driving up the price and scarcity of water at the exact moment you need the most of it. In many parts of the West, water is not just expensive, it's rationed, and a course can find itself legally forced to let fairways go brown or reduce its water allotment, which drives away the very golfers who came for the green. The second enemy is competition and overbuilding. And this is the story that actually broke the industry. Through the 1990s, developers and investors became convinced that golf was a permanent growth market, and they built courses at a furious pace, at the peak opening roughly one new course every single day across the country. The pitch was simple: build it and they will come. But the golfers didn't come in the numbers the spreadsheets promised. Participation flattened and then declined through the 2000s and 2010s, and the country was left with far more courses than there were golfers to fill them. For well over a decade, more courses closed every year than opened, with net closures running around 150 to 200 courses a year after year. Courses that cost $15 or $20 million to build were sold for a small fraction of that, and many were never sold as courses at all. They were bulldozed and turned into housing developments, because the land underneath was worth more with houses on it than with grass. And that fact is the whole secret of the business hiding in plain sight. Think about the real estate development course for a moment. A developer buys a big piece of land, carves a golf course through the middle of it, and then sells the surrounding lots as premium home sites with a fairway view. The buyers pay tens of thousands of dollars extra per lot for the privilege of living on the course. The developer never needed the course to turn a profit on green fees. The course was a marketing expense that made the real product, the houses, far more valuable. In many of these communities, once every lot is sold, the developer hands the money-losing course off to the homeowners or an operator and walks away rich, having extracted the value that mattered. The course was never the business, the land was the business, and the course was the amenity that sold it. This is the same lesson the ranch teaches. The cattle are the cover charge, the land is the wealth. On a golf course, the golf is the cover charge, and very often, the dirt is the only thing that was ever going to make anyone rich. So let's do the plain mechanical math on a real course. Say you own a daily fee public course with fixed annual costs. That's maintenance, payroll, insurance, the loan payment, and utilities, of around $2 million a year. Your average revenue per round, once you blend the green fee, the cart, and what that golfer spends at the turn, comes to about $50. That means you need 40,000 rounds a year just to break even before you've made a single dollar. A busy, well-located course in a good climate might do 40 to 50,000 rounds a year. A course in a short northern season, or one facing a new competitor down the road, might only manage 25 or 30,000, and every round below that break-even line is a dollar coming straight out of the owner's pocket. Now watch how thin the line really is. In the optimistic scenario, you own a well-located course in a climate with a long season. You hit 45,000 rounds. The weather cooperates, your wedding and events calendar is packed every weekend from May to October, and your food and beverage operation runs at a healthy margin. Under those conditions, a course can throw off a genuinely comfortable profit, and the land underneath quietly appreciates in value year after year. That's the outcome that makes owning a course look like a dream. In the realistic bad year scenario, nothing exotic happens at all. It just rains on 8 of your best summer Saturdays, wiping out your highest revenue days. A drought in August forces your water bill up by $100,000, while the fairways brown out anyway. A newer course opens 20 minutes away and takes a chunk of your daily fee traffic. 2 big weddings cancel. Suddenly your rounds slip from 45,000 to 32,000, your costs rise, and that same course slides from a comfortable profit straight into a 6-figure loss for the year, even though the parking lot still looked reasonably full most weekends. And almost none of that swing shows up as a single dramatic event. No fire, no scandal, just a slightly shorter season, a slightly higher water bill, a slightly emptier events calendar, compounding quietly month after month, until the number at the bottom of the spreadsheet looks nothing like the plan. This is why so many courses that look busy are quietly for sale, and why the ones that survive for decades are almost never the ones with the best golf. They're the ones that figured out they were never really in the golf business. They're the ones that treated the course as a beautiful, expensive stage and made their money on the wedding held in front of it, the membership dues paid by people who rarely tee off, and above all the land itself slowly climbing in value underneath the grass. So if you do decide to buy a golf course, remember the one thing that actually determines whether you make it. It was never really about how many golfers you can get onto the first tee. It's about everything you can sell them and everyone else standing on the exact same piece of land. The fairways were never the asset. The dirt underneath them always was.